Today's topic is corticosteroids. The adrenal gland is the source of diverse group of hormones essential for metabolic control and regulation of water and electrolyte balance, maintenance of androgenic functions, and regulation of body's response to stress. These are of two types, glucocorticoids and mineralocorticoids. These are very crucial and necessary for the life. Corticosteroids are corticoids referred to natural gluco and mineralocorticoids, their synthesis and their synthetic analogs. Nobel Prize awarded to Kendall, Lichtenstein, and Hench for their contribution in the isolation of steroidal components. Adrenal cortical hormones are more important than medullary hormones. Among cortical hormones, mineralocorticoids are more essential than glucocorticoids. Their synthesis and release of glucocorticoids is controlled by pituitary ACTH, which stimulated in turn by CRF. Then that is produced by hypothalamus. Glucocorticoids have negative feedback control on ACTH and CRF secretion. Mineralocorticoids, for example, aldosterone, release is controlled by the renin-angiotensin system. There is a diurnal variation in the rate of release of ACTH and cortisol level. Circadian rhythm. This is called circadian rhythm. The highest level of plasma cortisol occurs in the early hours of morning and the lowest in the late evening. The long-term use of corticosteroids, large doses will decrease ACTH secretion and gradually cause adrenal cortical atrophy. Hence, sudden stoppage of the corticosteroids after prolonged treatment is very dangerous and can precipitate acute adrenal insufficiency. Next, coming to the anatomy of the adrenal gland, mainly divided into two parts, inner medulla and outer cortex. In inner medulla, only catecholamines are synthesized, catecholamines like adrenaline, noradrenaline, and in outer cortex, all the corticosteroids are synthesized. This is also same. So there are this cortex mainly divided into three zones: zona glomerulosa, zona fasciculata, zona reticularis. In zona glomerulosa, mineralocorticoids such as aldosterone are synthesized. In zona fasciculata, glucocorticoids are synthesized. Example: cortisol and corticosterone. In zona reticularis, adrenal androgens are synthesized. And next, coming to the biosynthesis of corticosteroids. Synthesized from cholesterol, the main precursor molecule for the synthesis of all corticosteroids is a cholesterol. Through a series of enzyme-mediated transformation, ACTH stimulates adrenal steroid synthesis. Aldosterone synthesis is not stimulated by ACTH, but by angiotensin II. Although ACTH does stimulate synthesis of aldosterone precursors, circulating potassium exerts a permissive effect on angiotensin II stimulation. High potassium enhances and low potassium diminishes. The adrenal cortex is a factory of steroid hormones. 10 to 30 different steroids are synthesized from this tissue, but two classes are of very important. Out of that, mineralocorticoids and glucocorticoids. Mineralocorticoids such as aldosterone, which is synthesized from zona glomerulosa, and the physiological effects are sodium, potassium, and water homeostasis. And next, coming to the glucocorticoids, examples are hydrocortisone, or also called cortisol, synthesized from zona fasciculata. Example is corticosterone. The physiological effect is glucose and many other homeostasis. And the last one, that is adrenal cortex, also produces sex steroids, also called androgens, such as dehydroepiandrosterone, synthesized from the zona reticularis. Next, coming to biosynthesis of all corticosteroids. So the main precursor molecule for the all synthesis of all catecholamines is the uh, cholesterol. Cholesterol will forms the pregnenolone. Pregnenolone will splits into two molecules, substances, progesterone and 17 alpha hydroxy pregnenolone. 17 alpha hydroxy pregnenolone will converts into 17 alpha hydroxy progesterone and dehydroepiandrosterone. And this 17 alpha hydroxy progesterone again uh, converts into androstenedione and 11 desoxyhydrocortisone, and this 11 desoxyhydrocortisone converts into hydrocortisone, and this is also called gluco plus mineralocorticoid. And then androstenedione will convert into testosterone. And next coming here, progesterone will convert into 17 alpha, again 17 alpha hydroxy progesterone, and it also converts 11 desoxycorticosterone and further corticosterone, and lastly aldosterone. These are called mineralocorticoids. And here dehydroepiandrosterone, androstenedione, testosterone, all together called androgens. So the main precursor molecule of all synthesis of all corticosteroids is the cholesterol. Next, coming to the same pathway and the negative feedback mechanism and positive feedback mechanism. So in stress, higher centers are stimulated and hypothalamus is stimulated, then it will stimulate the anterior pituitary, then ACTH. ACTH will directly stimulate the adrenal cortex and stimulates three zonas: glomerulosa, fasciculata, and reticularis, and aldosterone, hydrocortisone, and dihydroepiandrosterone, respectively. So, after the release, it will act directly on the kidney, then causes the sodium and water retention, then increases the blood volume, then finally increases the cardiac output and BP. And here, kidney also releases the renin. Then it will convert the angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1. Then finally, angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2, which angiotensin 2, which is formed, it will acts on the respective receptors, angiotensin 1 receptors, and it will increases the peripheral vascular resistance and finally BP. And next, the negative feedback mechanism, that is, so all the after the formation of the hydrocortisone, it will directly acts on the hypothalamus as well as on the anterior pituitary and decreases the further action of the ACTH on the cortex, adrenal cortex. This is called negative feedback mechanism. And positive feedback mechanism, so after the formation stimulation of the adrenal medulla, it will releases the adrenaline, that is catecholamine. It will directly stimulate the higher centers and hypothalamus. So by stimulating the higher centers and hypothalamus, it will further releases the or further stimulates the anterior pituitary and remaining steps. Next, coming to the basal secretion. Glucocorticoids such as cortisol, 5 to 30 mg is secreted in our body daily, and corticosterone 2 to 5 mg Next, mineralocorticoids, aldosterone 5 to 150 mcg, 11 deoxycorticosterone, very stress, very small amount, and sex hormones like androgen, DHEA, 15 to 30 mg, progesterone zero point 0.4 to zero point 0.8 mg, and estradiol trace, very small amount. Again, next, regulation of synthesis, synthesized and released under influence of ACTH, anterior pituitary, and this is also called and adrenaline. This is also called HPA axis. As I was explaining you in the previous slide, the negative feedback mechanism, and it is regulated by CRH from hypothalamus and by feedback levels of blood concentrations. Next, regulation of synthesis, controlled by circadian rhythm, that is also called diurnal rhythm. Morning rise, so early in the morning, exactly at 4 o'clock, 4 to 6, the maximum amount of the cortisol will be released, and it also releases in stress conditions and other actions like hypoglycemia, physical stress. In these conditions, uh, cortisol or hydrocortisol is released excessively. So this is the chart, diurnal variation. Here you can locate, you can see early in the morning from midnight to 4 and 8. So in between the 4 and 8, or midnight to morning 8 o'clock, the maximum amount of the cortisol is secreted. Next, glucocorticoids, mechanism of action. These are not stored at all. The rate of synthesis is directly proportional to rate of release, and these are synthesized rhythmically and controlled by irregular pulses of ACTH influenced by light, and major pulses occur early in the morning and afternoons. Glucocorticoids act via their receptors located in nucleus. Glucocorticoid receptors are widely distributed and located almost in all cells of the body. They are made up of almost 800 amino acids. Next, coming to the mechanism of action, how glucocorticoids are acts in the body. Steroid hormones, it will directly binds to the receptor, that is binding of steroid hormone to receptor. Then second step, translocation of steroid receptor complex to nucleus. And third step, binding of complex to DNA regulatory site. And fourth step, transcription occurs, then followed by translation, then forms the new protein. Next, coming to the actions, numerous and widespread actions are there: carbohydrate, lipid, and protein metabolism, fluid and electrolyte balance, normal functioning of CVS, immune system, kidneys, skeletal muscles, and nervous system, provides resistance to stress and noxious stimuli and environmental changes, permits and facilitates the actions of other hormones, uh, by direct actions, directly acts on the receptors, respective receptors. And there is also permissive actions. Permissive action, nothing but action of some hormones are executed only in presence of glucocorticoids. This is called permissive action. Examples are, these are the permissive actions: calorigenic effect of glucagon, lipolytic effect of catecholamines, pressor effect of catecholamines, bronchodilation by catecholamines. Next, coming to the actions of corticosteroids. They maintain fluid, electrolyte, cardiovascular, and energy substrate homeostasis and functional status of skeletal muscles and nervous system. They prepare the body to withstand effects of all kinds of noxious stimuli and stress. Corticoids have some direct and some permissive actions. Next, coming to the other actions like carbohydrate and protein metabolism. Glucocorticoids exert prominent anti-insulin effects such as hyperglycemia through various mechanisms. They decrease peripheral utilization of glucose by decreasing its cellular uptake. They enhance the expression of the hepatic enzymes involved in gluconeogenesis and stimulate glucose synthesis. They mobilize amino acids by inhibiting protein synthesis and increasing proteolysis in muscle, connective tissue, and skin. And glucocorticoids also promote the deposition of glycogen in the liver by enhancing hepatic glycogen synthetase enzyme. This probably is a consequence of insulin secretion in response to hyperglycemia. Increased protein breakdown is responsible for side effects like muscle wasting, lympholysis, loss of osteoid from bones, thinning of skin. Excess use of amino acids during gluconeogenesis responsible for negative nitrogen balance. The result of glucocorticoid administration is the increase in blood sugar, liver glycogen, and excretion of urinary nitrogen. Next, coming to the fat metabolism. The action of glucocorticoids on fat metabolism is primarily permissive in nature. They promote lipolysis due to glucagon, growth hormone, adrenaline, and thyroxine. The CAMP-induced breakdown of triglycerides is enhanced. Fat deposits in the different areas of the body respond differently. Distributed of the fat occurs. Peripheral adipocytes are less sensitive to insulin and more sensitive to corticosteroid. Enhanced lipolytic action of the growth hormone and adrenaline. Breakdown of fat predominates, whereas truncal adipocytes respond mainly to raised insulin levels caused by glucocorticoid-induced hyperglycemia. Long-term administration at high doses of the glucocorticoids causes redistribution of the fats from peripheral stores towards central locations such as back of the neck and shoulder, buffalo hump, abdomen, and face. You can this picture. If the fat deposition or distribution occurs in various parts of the body, it will looks like this: moon face and fish mouth, and also causes central obesity. Next, coming to the calcium metabolism. Decreasing intestinal transport of calcium by inhibiting action of 1,25 dihydroxy vitamin D3. Increasing loss of calcium from kidneys, loss of calcium from bone due to loss of osteoid. Amplify the action of parathyroid hormone, loss of calcium from bone. All these effects appreciate osteoporosis and causes spongy bones, especially vertebra, ribs, pelvis, etc. are more sensitive. Next, coming to the other actions, aldosterone is the prototype of mineralocorticoid effects. Acts on the distal tubule to enhance absorption of sodium, increase excretion of potassium and hydrogen, water, H plus. Similar effects occur in colon, sweat and salivary gland. Deficiency of mineralocorticoid action leads to dilution, hyponatremia, hyperkalemia, acidosis, massive loss of sodium and decreased ECF, extracellular fluid volume, essential for survival, hyperaldosteronism, positive sodium balance, expansion of ECF, increased plasma sodium, hypokalemia, alkalosis, and progressive rise in BP, and leads to hypertension, myocardial fibrosis, etc. Next, other actions like water excretion. Glucocorticoids play important role in maintaining normal GFR in adrenal insufficiency. Capacity to excrete water is lost and leads to water intoxication. And calcium balance. Decreased absorption of the calcium in GIT and increased excretion leads to calcium depletion and causes the osteoporosis. Skeletal muscles. Normal muscular activity needs glucocorticoids at its optimum level, and excess level leads to muscular weakness and wasting. Muscular weakness occurs in both hypocorticism due to hypodynamic circulation and hypercorticism due to hypokalemia. And in the CNS, euphoria at pharmacological doses of cortisol, and Addison's disease characterized by, and symptoms are apathy, depression, and psychosis. At high doses induces the seizures. Next, CVS, permissive role on pressor effect with adrenaline and angiotensin. Maintain tone of arterioles and myocardial contractility. Adrenal insufficiency leads to low cardiac output and arterial dilatation and poor response to adrenaline. Cardiovascular collapse along with mineralocorticoids, blood and lymphoid tissues. Destruction of lymphoid tissue causes modest in normal persons. In presence of malignancy of lymphatic cells, lytic actions are significant. Apoptosis and used in lymphomas. Minor effects on hemoglobin and RBCs. Protect against hemolysis of RBCs. Increase in number of RBCs. Decreases the number of circulating lymphocytes, monocytes, eosinophils, and basophils, but increases the polymorphs. Next, coming to the pharmacological actions. Anti-inflammatory and immunosuppressive effects. Suppresses inflammatory response to all noxious stimuli like pathogens, chemical, physical, and immune-mediated stimuli, and hypersensitivity. Underlying cause of disease is not corrected. Reduction in cardinal signs of inflammation. Anti-inflammatory effects are non-specific and covers all components of inflammation. Effects on concentration, distribution, and factor functions of peripheral leukocytes, increased neutrophils and their activity. In macrophages, reduction of arachidonic acid metabolites like prostaglandins, leukotrienes, and platelet activating factors synthesis that results from activation of phospholipase A2. Next, multiple mechanisms of glucocorticoids. Decreased recruitment of WBC and monocytes, macrophages into affected area, and elaboration of chemotactic substances. And increased lipocortin decreases the production of prostaglandins, leukotrienes, and platelet activating factors. And negative regulation of COX-2, cyclooxygenase 2 enzyme, which is responsible for the synthesis of prostaglandins, which will decreases the inducible prostaglandin production. Negative regulation of genes in cytokines of macrophages, endothelial cells, and lymphocytes. Decreases the production of the interleukins like 1, 2, 3, and 6, and tissue necrotic factor, TNF alpha, and GM CSF, etc. Decreases the fibroblast proliferation and T lymphocyte functions, causes interference with chemotaxis. Next, coming to the in endothelial cells, endothelial leukocyte adhesion molecule and other CAM are inhibited. So what will happen? Adhesion and localization of leukocytes interfere. Next, release of histamine from basophils is inhibited. Decreased production of collagenase leads to prevention of tissue destruction. Decreased functioning of osteoblasts, which are and increased osteoclastic activity leads to the osteoporosis. So osteoblasts and osteoclasts are different types of cells, which are osteoblasts are cells are responsible for the formation of the bone, and osteoclast cells are responsible for the resorption of the bone. That's why it may lead to the osteoporosis. If the osteoclastic activity is enhanced, and decreased IgG production, decreased generation of induced nitric oxide. Next, immunosuppressive and anti-allergic actions. Suppresses all types of hypersensitivity and allergic phenomenon at high doses, interfere with all steps of immunological response, causes greater suppression of cell-mediated immunity, that is graft rejection and delayed hypersensitivity, transplant rejection, antigen expression from graft tissues, delay revascularization, decreases sensitization of T lymphocytes, etc. Next, pharmacokinetics. Pharmacokinetics not that much important, even though I'll explain you. Therapeutically given by various routes of administration, orally, intramuscular, intravenous, and topically also. Hydrocortisone undergoes high first-pass metabolism, and oral bioavailability of synthetic corticoids is high. Both endogenous and therapeutically administered glucocorticoids are bound to corticosteroid-binding globulin. Synthetic steroids have to undergo reduction in liver to active compounds, metabolized in liver and excreted in urine. Exogenously administered hydrocortisone has T-off of 1.5 hours. Steroid preparations. An ideal glucocorticoid should have no mineralocorticoid activity. Structural changes to the basic cortisol molecule resulted in a number of compounds with minimal mineralocorticoid activity, greater potency, longer duration of action. Next, coming to the clinical pharmacology of corticosteroids. This is the classification of the corticosteroids. Injectable: betamethasone, dexamethasone, prednisolone, methylprednisolone, hydrocortisone, triamcinolone, and oral: betamethasone, fludrocortisone, prednisolone, prednisone, methylprednisolone. Next, topical: betamethasone, clobetasol, fluocinolone, mometasone, and inhalational: beclomethasone, budesonide, flunisolide. Next, therapeutic uses of corticosteroids. These are used in replacement therapy, especially in adrenal insufficiency, in acute as well as in chronic adrenal insufficiency. So, abrupt withdrawal of steroid therapy in that case, you can use chronic infections like tuberculosis, autoimmune adrenal diseases, surgeries, hemorrhage, and AIDS patients. Congenital adrenal hyperplasia. So, in congenital disorders due to deficiency of 21 hydroxylase enzyme, there is no cortisol but ACTH increased androgen production. Acute adrenal insufficiency. So, IV replacement of sodium, chloride, and fluid can be done. IV hydrocortisone 100 mg start followed by 100 mg every 8 hours. Maximum daily rate of secretions. So, especially this hydrocortisone, IV hydrocortisone is also used in case of status asthmaticus in emergency condition. Alternatively, dexamethasone can be used in case of acute adrenal insufficiency. Chronic adrenal insufficiency, hydrocortisone, prednisolone, or dexamethasone for the long-acting, and flucortisone for mineralocorticoid effects, and congenital adrenal hyperplasia. So the treatment is hydrocortisone 0.6 mg per kg in divided doses can be given to maintain feedback suppression. Anti-inflammatory uses of corticosteroids for suppression of inflammatory components in rheumatoid arthritis as an adjuvant along with the NSAIDs in severe cases. In osteoarthritis, NSAIDs intra-articular injection can be given. Rheumatic fever, severe cases with carditis and congestive heart failure. In gout, NSAIDs, if NSAIDs fail and colchicine failed cases, an intra-articular injection can be given. Vasculitic disorders, polyarteritis nodosa. Next, intra-articular steroids. It can be given and used in inflammatory, non-inflammatory diseases such as knee joint, shoulder joint, tennis elbow, carpal tunnel syndrome. Autoimmune diseases. Autoimmune hemolytic anemia, idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura, active chronic hepatitis, alcohol hepatitis, prednisolone 1 to 2 mg per kg per day given till remission followed by gradual withdrawal or low dose maintenance. Next, coming to renal diseases. Nephrotic syndrome in children, renal diseases secondary to the systemic lupus erythematosus, renal sarcoidosis, glomerulonephritis, especially membranous type. It is life-saving importance, usually given in large doses followed by tapering to maintenance dose. You can decrease to maintenance dose. Or in organ transplantation, it will be combined with other immunosuppressants such as cyclosporine azathioprine. For prolonged use, prednisolone or methylprednisolone are used. For intermediate duration of action, can be easily tapered, can be easily decrease the dose, and can be converted to an alternative regimen. Allergic disorders exhibit a delayed response in allergies, that is 1 to 2 hours even in IV injection. In anaphylaxis, angioneurotic edema, and serum sickness, etc. Adrenaline is the drug of choice in anaphylactic shock. In seasonal allergies, such as bee sting, drug allergies, allergic reactions can be suppressed by corticosteroid supplements. Intranasal administration in allergic rhinitis, budesonide and flunisolide can be given. In bronchial asthma, the increased recognition of the immunological and inflammatory nature of bronchial asthma has led to the use of corticosteroids. So, in severe asthma attacks, or also called status asthmaticus, so IV hydrocortisone can be given. Hydrocortisone emisaxinate, that is 100 mg IV stat can be given, followed by Methylprednisolone, oral prednisolone can be given. In acute attacks like inhalational beclomethasone, budesonide, flunisolide alone or combined with a beta-2 agonist or ipratropium bromide, that is anticholinergics, or followed by oral steroids can be given. So, aerosol drug delivery system followed by oral can be given depending on the status of the asthma. Infectious diseases indicated only in severe infective diseases to tide over crisis or prevent complications such as AIDS and pneumocystis carinii pneumonia, in Haemophilus influenza meningitis to reduce neurological complications, and tuberculosis meningitis, lepra reaction, septicemia. Next, ocular diseases. It's very important drug therapy for suppressing inflammation in eye and preservation of the sight. Topical instillations are used for conditions of the anterior chamber such as allergic conjunctivitis, iritis, iridocyclitis, and keratitis, etc. Systemic steroids for the posterior chamber and dexamethasone topical 0.1%, prednisolone oral can be given, and it is contraindicated in viral, fulminant bacterial infections, fungal infections, and injuries. Skin diseases. The largest application of steroid therapy can be used. Topical forms are widely used in many eczematous skin diseases. Systemic therapy are also required and may be life-saving in some such situations like pemphigus vulgaris, exfoliative dermatitis, Stevens-Johnson syndrome. Next, coming to the GIT, like in inflammatory conditions of intestine like ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, celiac disease. So the oral therapy of corticosteroids are used for retention in case of retention enema. Retention enema also given along with the hydrocortisone. May mask the major complications like perforation and peritonitis. Next, coming to the malignancy, essential for combined chemotherapy of acute lymphatic leukemia, Hodgkin's and other lymphomas, hormone-responsive breast carcinoma, symptomatic relief in other advanced malignancies by improving appetite and controlling secondary hypercalcemia. Next, cerebral edema. Cerebral edema due to tumors, like neospasms, spasms. Traumatic and post-stroke edema. Dexamethasone or betamethasone is preferred because no sodium retaining activity is there. Other CNS conditions like spinal cord injury, Bell's palsy, and neurocysticercosis. Oral prednisolone is the preferred drug. Next, other uses used as antiemetic along with the ondansetron, acute mountain sickness, aspiration pneumonia, pulmonary edema from drowning, and hyperthyroidism such as thyroid stone. Adverse effects. Two types of adverse effects are there: from abrupt withdrawal after the prolonged usage, and chronic therapeutic use of high doses can cause us various side effects. If abruptly withdrawn or stopped, sudden stoppage of the drug use. Flare up of underlying diseases, suppression of HPA axis and acute adrenal insufficiency, increase ICT intracranial tension and papilloedema. So these are the adverse effects after the prolonged usage of the drug if you withdrawn suddenly. It may cause high blood sugar, high blood pressure, vertigo, blurred vision, female balding, menstrual irregularities, hirsutism, severe depression, cognitive impairment, emotional instability, easy fatigability. Next, other important adverse effects, almost same: fluid and electrolyte disturbance, sodium and water retention, for precipitation of diabetes mellitus, causes hyperglycemia, increase susceptibility to infections, like immune response suppression, peptic ulceration, bleeding and perforation, osteoporosis, flat spongy bones, osteonecrosis, avascular necrosis of head of femur, humerus, etc., myopathy, weakness of muscles, cataract, posterior subcapsular type, glaucoma, prolonged topical therapy, growth retardation in children. Next, contraindications of corticosteroids. Say no to any drug formulation combined with the steroids. Remember that steroids are life-saving drugs, not the following conditions where you have to be extremely cautious. So these are the following conditions in which the corticosteroids are contraindicated, like peptic ulcer, hypertension, diabetes mellitus, viral and fungal infections, tuberculosis and other diseases, osteoporosis, epilepsy and psychosis, congestive heart failure, and renal failure. If you used in these following conditions, it will still worsen the condition. Choosing a steroid, benefit or risk ratio is a major consideration. Drugs with pulmonary glucocorticoid activity are used. Minimal dose to achieve the desired effects is chosen. Topical or local therapy is preferred whenever possibility is there. Choosing a steroid continuation. Once daily dosing is usually preferred for oral glucocorticoids. Large steroid doses are administered in divided doses to reduce local GIT effects. In order to mimic the normal diurnal cycle and reduce the risk of adrenal suppression, glucocorticoids should be given in the morning between 6 to 10 a.m. Alternate day therapy allows the HPA axis to recover on off days. Withdrawal of steroid therapy. Taper the dose to reduce glucocorticoid dose by 2.5 to 5 mg of prednisolone equivalent daily secretion. Once the glucocorticoid dose is reduced to 5 mg of prednisolone equivalent, the patient may be switched to a shorter acting agent for further tapering. Intermediate acting glucocorticoids allow for more flexible dosing schedule. Have potent glucocorticoid effects, causes lesser suppression of HPA axis, causes less GIT irritation, preferred for oral therapy. Prednisolone, methylprednisolone, and triamcinolone have a half-life of 12 to 36 hours, are available in a number of dosage forms. Next, coming to the hydrocorticosteroid inhibitors. There are so many steroid inhibitors are there. Metilopone. This is 11 beta hydroxylase enzyme inhibitor, which is used in the treatment of Cushing's syndrome and test of pituitary efficiency. Aminoglutathione stops conversion of cholesterol to pregnenolone. Medical, especially used in the medical adrenalectomy in breast cancers. Mifepristone, also called progesterone antagonist. Spironolactone, aldosterone antagonist, especially used in primary aldosteronism. And ketoconazole inhibits the synthesis of all hormones in testes and adrenal cortex, used in Cushing's syndrome treatment and also in hirsutism in females. Thank you. That's all for today.